fear.
Dutch drivers to pay tax on road time, not on car. Remember, they're always selling it as, oh, this is going to be great for the populace, and it's only really going to be bad for the rich. And we're going to get into another article that says this same thing, only it's out of Britain. Oh, look, the Telegraph promoting the same thing that's being promoted in the Netherlands. Weird. That's odd, isn't it? Well, it's about globalism, so it's not so weird. And we're going to take some of the calls that are hanging over from the Alex Jones. So Brian, Annette, Gene, Matt, and more. We're going to take your calls on any subject matter. If I'm missing some headlines, please tell me, folks. All right. The Dutch government plans to bring the polluter pays principle into the home garage. Rather than an annual road tax for their cars, drivers will soon pay a few cents for every kilometer on the road. In a plan aimed at breaking chronic traffic jams and cutting carbon emissions, the cabinet decided Friday. So again, they say, oh, there's going to be less traffic and we're going to save the world at the same time. Here's where it gets extremely Orwellian. The GPS monitoring system, see, how can you achieve this unless you're tracking, tracing, and databasing somebody's every movement in their vehicle? The answer is you can't. So they have to put a GPS monitoring system for this cashless society control grid that they are putting into place. And we'll get to the cashless part in just a moment. The GPS monitoring system could be a test case for other countries. See, it's about other countries. It's about bringing people in, weighing options for easing crowded roads. Some cities like London have created congested charges to control traffic in downtown areas, but only Singapore, and Singapore is going to do this same system, has a similar scheme for charging according to the amount of travel. When the plan takes effect in 2012, new car prices, see, again, they try to sell you on, oh, car prices will drop. They say car prices will drop as much as 25%. See how it says as much as and as low as 2%. So maybe it'll drop 2%. Maybe it'll drop 25%. We don't know. Give me a break. Some cities like London have created congestion charges already. They're already doing it. All right, they're now saying that the totals will be more than $900 per year for a mid-sized car. I would say they're going to double that. Instead of an average passenger car, will pay 3 cents per kilometer with higher charges levied during rush hour. So again, if you want to get home after work and you want to take the highway, that's going to cost you more money. So who are they really pinching out? Does that pinch out the elites? No, that pinches out the jobber that works a 9 to 5 and can barely scrape by. Trucks, commercial vehicles, and bigger cars emitting more carbon dioxide will be assessed a higher rate. So you got an SUV, higher rate. You got a truck, higher rate. And it's all going to be on this graduated scale. But it never reaches the elite. It never reaches the upper echelons because they're the ones squeezing your pockets. The GPS devices installed in cars will track the time, hour, and place each car moves and send the data to a billing agency. But don't worry, the government says that this information won't be used to harm you and it'll be in a secure database. That's all in this article here. And again, it says the tax will ratchet up every year until 2018 and could be adjusted if it fails to change traffic patterns. So in other words, if what happens is there's still congested roads, only you're paying a 3 times more tax, they'll just jack the price up and act like that's going to stop the congestion. Of course it won't. Of course it won't. So let's parlay that into this Telegraph article. Everyone in Britain could be given a personal carbon allowance. Oh, now we're going to have an allowance like we're children. Like we're the kids. Oh, we get an allowance. What am I, 8 years old? Am I mowing lawns for a living? This is utterly disgusting. Lord Smith of Finsbury believes that implementing individual carbon allowances for every person, will be the most effective way of meeting the targets for cutting greenhouse gas emissions. Now, again, they say they're going to cut 80% of their emissions from the 1990 levels by 2020. Completely impossible unless they kill off a large part of the population. Just not going to happen. But they don't really want to cut carbon emissions. They want to take your money. They want to take away your living standard. That's the real idea. They want to acclimate you to a new system of credits based on a world government. And that's why you see this woman putting a card in at the gas pump. It would involve people being issued with a unique number. Oh, how lovely. A unique number, which they would hand over when purchasing products that contribute to their carbon footprint, which would be everything. Everything would contribute to your carbon footprint. If you eat a steak from a restaurant, well, that steak had to get there somehow, didn't it? I mean, it had to travel somewhere. It contributes to your carbon footprint. But they say things like fuel, airline tickets, and electricity. Electricity is essential for everything. Everything involves electricity. You tell this to the average person, though, they just don't get it. They think that Al Gore is going to save the world. And we're going to get to that, too, because he was just at a conference out in Florida. About 800 people showed up, but there were 200 protesters outside, which means at least a quarter of the population has woken up to this global tax scam. And that's what it is. It's a cap-and-trade scam, not a scheme. Well, it's kind of a scheme, too, but they refer to the scheme as schematics, when really it is a scheme to take your money, to empower the elite even further. Like with a bank account, a statement would be set out each month to help people track the way they are using carbon. In their carbon account, if their carbon account hits zero, they would have to pay to get more credits. Those who are frugal with their carbon usage may be able to sell their unused credits and make a profit. And this is what's really hilarious. They try to sell you that this is bad for people with extravagant lifestyles. An Environment Agency spokesman said that those with extravagant lifestyles would be affected by the carbon allowance. He said a lot of people who cycle will get money back. So in other words, if you use a bike, you're going to get money back. They're trying to sell this to the cyclists. Give me a break. I really hope people understand what this Copenhagen Treaty is about. But you know what? I'm going to say even the majority of the people that listen to this program and are in the know have not read this treaty yet. Please, it is only 200 and some odd pages. It's not light reading by any means, but you can go through it. You can see the provisions that will set up, and one of the three pillars is setting up a global unelected government. And the word tax appears in the document over a dozen times. The word government over 24 times. This is not Jason Bermas telling you this. These are the globalists in their own words assuring you that it will happen. All right, I'm going to take a little break here and go to some calls, but we're going to get back into this carbon credit system as well as some swine flu news. I have a permission slip out of Quebec that is just off the charts. We're going to get to that maybe in the next hour, really hit up the swine flu news and the H1N1 propaganda that is all over the news still to this day. Oh, there's shortages. And we've got Catherine Sebelius, the head of Health and Human Services, on C-SPAN admitting that Sesame Street and kids television is working in getting the kids to take the vaccines and shots. Wait till you see this. All right, let's go to Brian in Rhode Island. Brian, you're on the line. Yes, sir.
I was waiting to talk to Alex, but you'll do because y'all do the same thing.
All right.
I want to tell you what I found out about 2 weeks ago, that if anybody out there doubts that they are trying to take away our rights, they've already done it to me.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I am not allowed to go to my church whenever I get the chance to go.
And why is that?
Well, I'm a registered sex offender. I've been going to my church for 8 years, and they have passed a law that went into effect in May.
Mm-hmm.
And now I am no longer allowed to go to 98% of the churches out there.
Well, you know, Brian, I thank you for the call. I just don't know your personal situation, but I got to tell you, there's nothing that starts out good with saying I'm a registered sex offender. I'm just going to leave it at that and drop it and go to Annette in West Virginia. Annette, you're on the line. Yes, Annette.
I didn't know that you had a program with regard to the treaties and this Copenhagen Treaty. No treaty is valid unless it conforms to the USA Constitution, and Americans should be made aware of that.
Well, it also has to be, it also has to be ratified by 2/3 of the Senate, and even then it really wouldn't. I mean, if you actually followed the Constitution to a T, but we know the tyrants in power do not. They do these treaties and these unions. I mean, look at the European Union. They would not take no for an answer by Ireland. And what do? They just keep trying to pass the Lisbon Treaty and keep trying to pass the Lisbon Treaty. And eventually they pass the Lisbon Treaty. These people do what they want. And we can sit here and argue minutia and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights all day long, unless we step up to the plate and make people aware what the Copenhagen Treaty is and what this United Nations world government is, and have people actually call it out by name. I don't think we can have success in saying, well, it's not constitutionally valid. They will still tax you under this world system, I promise you. I thank you for the call, Annette. Let's go to Gene in North Carolina. Gene, you're on the line. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Good, man.
Can you hear me, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, I've talked to Alex a couple of times. It sure is a pleasure to finally talk to you. But back to Al Gore. I've posted some YouTube videos, about Al Gore and his cataclysm of fraud on a carbon tax scam. And it's funny, Alex was right about how they manipulate the numbers on YouTube. The same video has been on LiveLeak, and for for every couple of views I get on YouTube, there's hundreds, on LiveLeak. So, I mean, it's definitely, kind of a one-sided thing on the YouTube thing.
Well, Gene, from my own experience with Google, and Google owns YouTube now, Google Video got caught dozens of times taking away our numbers on Loose Change Second Edition and Loose Change Final Cut, freezing our accounts. With my last film, Fabled Enemies, I released it on September 1st. By that evening on September 1st, I was number 2 in the world. By September 2nd, I was number 1 in the world. And what happened? They just stopped the charts. The top 100 was done. They froze my account, and they did not let me have the views that I had.